Welcome back, MTG Joe here, and we're here for another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we take a look at a specific format for each video on MTG Arena and look at the top performing decks of the week. This particular video is looking at the historic format. We'll take a look at both best of 1 and best of 3. If you're looking for standard, that was posted the other day. You can find it in the playlist. We went through almost half an hour analysis between Untapped and a bunch of tournament data. So for those of you who are new, what we try to do here is look at top performing decks, both in terms of volume of play and overall win percentage. And the way we're doing that predominantly is through untapped.gg. It's a companion tool that runs alongside your Arena client. Tracks your games played, win rates, contributes to data like this, suggests decks you can build with your collection, a bunch of in-game overlay features as well that up your overall game experience. Free to get started with it if you want to try it out. The link is in the video description down below. Click it, helps out the channel as well. But what we're looking at here is we're going to do historic best of 1 based on Untapped, and then we're going to look at some tournament data for best of 3 just because there's not enough sample size in best of 3 right now to get a real representative sense of what folks are playing with the new cards from Kamigawa. So for best of 1, February 14th to 21st, 7-day span, platinum to mythic rank, 59,000 games played of Magic in that one span. So almost 60,000 game sample size that we're looking at, and the kind of top 2 performing decks that we see. Pretty much the same deck, just kind of slight variations along the edges. It is Celesnya Heliod, so the Scurry Oak combo. So for those of you who are new to Historic or just haven't seen this deck before, it is a life gain centric deck that looks to have an infinite or pseudo infinite combo, basically as fast as you could click. So what happens is if you have the combination of Scurry Oak, Heliod, and anything that like creature enters the battlefield gain a life, so Soul Warden, Lunarch Veteran, or a lot of decks are moving to Ajani's Welcome as a more permanent based way to gain life. You could create infinite squirrel tokens and gain infinite life. The way that works is Scurry Oak enters the battlefield, life gain trigger goes on the stack. You put a counter on target creature, that creature being Scurry Oak. Scurry Oak then creates a squirrel, which gains you a life, which puts a counter, rinse and repeat, click, 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 click. You win the game, pretty much. It does have the fair game backup plan of Voice of the Blessed and Trelasarra, which allow you to make really large creatures that can kind of smack in. And this particular version is also playing Ranger-Captain of Eos to tutor for specific cards, pretty much your life gain enablers, and a 1 of Selfless Savior, and then 2 Skyclave Apparitions in this particular build. In the other version, it's just 4 Skyclave, no Ranger Captain, and they're playing Prosperous Innkeeper as another way to accelerate your mana base. So those 2 decks, high 60% win rates. A deck that we're seeing always it's kind of there on the ladder. If you're playing a lot of best of 1, you will run into various forms of creativity combo. And there's kind of 2 forms. There's the get the Sarah's Emissary, lock you out of the game potential version, and then there's this infinite combo version. So what they're trying to do with this deck is you get 2 tokens on the battlefield, treasure tokens, stuff like that. The way you do that, you have hard evidence to make 2 tokens on its own, a crab and a clue token. You have, where'd they go? You have like Unexpected Windfall, you have Prismari Command, you have Magma Opus, so a bunch of kind of ways to go like that. You make tokens with the deck. And then you cast Indomitable Creativity, you target 2 of your tokens. What happens is you flip cards from the top of your library and you flip the combination of the Locust God and Sage of Falls. So Sage of Falls says whenever another non-token or non-human creature enters the battlefield, you may draw a card and discard a card. With the Locust God, whenever you draw a card, you create a 1/1 blue-red insect. So what happens is they both come into play, they see each other. You draw a card, create an insect, discard a card, draw a card, create an insect, draw a card. And then you kind of just loop through that. The insects themselves have haste, so it's kind of a Splinter Twin situation. And what happens is if you have 40, 50 cards in your library, whatever number left, you create that many hasters and you kind of kill your opponent that way. This particular version of the deck too, so sometimes you'll see Shark Typhoon in the deck. This one's looking to do Magma Opus, Mizzix Mastery as a backup plan. And then you also have Teferi, the nerf Teferi. as a way to kind of prevent your opponent from interacting on your turn, and basically gives you a free window to just get in and deal some damage. And this kind of, you have ways to shuffle back with like Valakut Awakening and Fire Prophecy as well. We see Return of Elves. Elves kind of fell off a bit when you go like heavy combo decks. Elves usually kind of falls by the wayside a bit. Or just like we saw a lot of the blue-white Lotus field combo for a while in Best of 1, which then also kind of preys on it. But we're seeing an inclusion of Freyleys in the deck. Gives you an option against the control decks, the heavy sweeper decks, stuff like that. Lets you kind of go crazy in terms of ramp and buffing your team, and then allows you to get card advantage with conjuring a Regal Force into play. Notably, this version, you're playing 1 Fierce Empath in order to find your Crater of Behemoth to kind of play into there. We see mono red aggro, so there's usually always variations of this mono red deck. What we're seeing with the best performing one of this week, it's not unfortunately my Chandra version. It is a return to the OG Cleave, Torbran, Chain Whirler, Annex deck. So kind of ebbs and flows. When it's the meta is more creature based, the Emperor Cleave version is a little bit better. When it's more combo based, it's a little bit better there. Notably with this, we're seeing no Roiling Vortex, we're seeing no Rampaging Ferocidon, both of which really house the life gain deck. We see Auras. Auras is always a deck that can kind of put up results. It's a very kind of straightforward, kill them, make a big creature. This version, we're not seeing any Esper Sentinels, we're not seeing any Adonto Vanguards, playing the Hushbringers, which turns off the green-white deck, also turns off this Lotus Field combo as well, so kind of some Hate Bears effects in there. And then we got a new one. So this is, and we played a version of this on the channel in Best of 3, this is a Parhelion Greasefang combo. So what you're trying to do with this deck, you're trying to self-mill or like kind of draw, discard, loot Parhelion 2, the sequel. 8 mana, 5/5, flying, first strike, vigilance, vehicle. Whenever it attacks, create 2 4/4 angels with tokens, flying and vigilant tokens that are attacking as well. Its crew cost is 4. So what you're trying to do is on the earliest turn 3, potentially with this deck, you could technically turn 2 it, but it's very narrow chance of doing so. And I believe this particular variation, for the most part, is credited to Missman, content creator. So you put in your graveyard, and then you cast Greasefang Okiba Boss. So this lets you return at your combat a vehicle from your graveyard to the battlefield against haste till end of turn, and then you return it to your hand. So you reanimate it. It has 4 power, so it crews the Parhelion. So you attack for 13, you get 2 4/4 angels left, and you return the Parhelion to hand. If your opponent's not ready for it, it just kills them. It gets around Grafdigger's Cage. It just, the vehicle itself is hard to interact with, being 5 toughness. It's just a really fun deck. So you're kind of playing, so you have Seasoned Pyromancer, you have Thrilling Discovery to kind of loot cards into your graveyard, Faithless Looting as well, and then you have Goblin Engineer in this particular version. So when it enters battlefield, search your library for an artifact card, put it into your graveyard. So kind of tutorable way for the combo. This version is on like the portable holes as well to kind of play around. You also have Skyship Sovereign Council Flagship as another vehicle. You got the Bank Buster in this one. You have Wishclaw to search up and tutor specific threats as well. So there's like this version of the deck, and then I'll show you the version I played. It is a Madness version. So I like this version better for Best of 1 because it's more linear all-in combo, which generally plays better in Best of 1. The Madness version has more of a fair game to it, where like we ran into Control or just like heavier kind of interaction-based decks, and you end up just beating down with like cheap Madness creatures, Fiery Impulse, stuff like that. So that's a cool deck. We also see Celesne Enchantress, basically the 9 lives prison lock. Nothing really new with this deck. It's kind of been around. And then we see an Esper vehicle version. So same idea with the combo. You have Greasefang, you have Parhelion, you have the Skyship. This version's looking to loot with Chart of Course. You have Thirst for Knowledge, So, and Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flush, always. This version here, you have Hotshot Mechanic to crew, and this one can crew up to 4 as well, so kind of 8 creatures there. You have Anchor to Reality, sack artifact creature, search your library for equipment or vehicle, put that card onto the battlefield and shuffle. So another way to tutor it, so not into the graveyard, so this is another way around it at least, where if they have graveyard hate, you can play around it that way there. And then Disruptive Protocol as a counter spell. So more of an Esper focused version. One card you're going to see a lot in these decks too is the Mech Hanger. Just another way to set up your vehicles to attack, 3 mana and tap it to basically crew your vehicles. We see a version of Is It Phoenix, notably. Really what you want to look at Phoenix is kind of the creature package that they're running with. We're seeing them playing out Drake, going back to the Stormwing entity, cutting down the number of Sprite Dragons in the particular list. Another version of Esper vehicles, pretty much the same list. This one's playing a Weatherlight. It's really just kind of preference there. And then we kind of see one card I want to see, like, they're still playing the old Jin Jitaxis. I think the new Jin is actually a much better fit for these decks, just to be able to have like a way to counter your opponent's spell multiple turns. Because like a lot of times against control, for example, you reanimate a threat and then they just like cast a Fairy Tucket or sweep or something like that. So it's a way around kind of going from there. So that's best of 1. I'll post deck lists in the description if you want to pull some of these for some of the new decks. The Mardu version we played is here, so you can see like my tracking and stuff like this from Untapped. So if you're interested, it tells me my wild cards that I have, kind of how I've been performing. Highest this month we've been 724 Mythic. My win rate for the month, I haven't been playing too much, but each deck's individual. So kind of here, so you got like Blood Fountain for tokens, you have the Voldaren Aperture for tokens, some Croxas, Blazing Root Wall is free cast. So you kind of have a fair game plan to play in addition to kind of the combo. So if you're looking for a best of 3 version, I like this version a little bit better. It's a little bit grindier, but Mistman's been doing really well. He's like top 100 Mythic with his version as well. So I'll give you an idea there. So for best of 3, like I said, there's not a big enough population for us to look at. So we're going to look at MTG Melee, which is the online kind of, if you want to play digital tournaments, this is where you go. They host a bunch of different tournaments from a bunch of different content creators and tournament organizers. This is from the kind of creator group team, DJing Gaming. So like CGB, Jaffer, MTG, a bunch of other folks are all part of this, Ali Eldrazi. So this is a historic tournament that happened this weekend. 105 players played in it. So we'll scroll down quickly, look at the meta breakdown. We see Is It Phoenix and Golgari Food as the 2 most represented decks. 31 out of the 105. 58 and 59% win rates, so pretty high win rates. We also see Arcanist being the 3rd most popular at a high 50%. We also see the Mardu Vehicles list putting up a good showing, as well as Auras. Jun Food, kind of whatever. Azorius Control, not doing too well. Mono Red, just not doing... Mono Red's more of a best of 1 deck. Enchantress not doing too well. Goblins. Jeskai Control, you love to see it. 1 and 6. Dimir Rogues, someone showed up with Rogues, didn't do too hot. So kind of like going down the list. We'll take a look at a couple of the lists here. I'll put the link here. You can pop through. You can see all the lists themselves. A couple copies of like Is It Phoenix. Well, top 3 were all Is It Phoenix that finished. Really doesn't look like there's new cards beyond the channel lands in the decks. One card you're seeing in the sideboard more often is Sylvium, the legendary Merfolk, having 4 toughness, drawing new cards, playing around graveyard hate. If we're just kind of scanning these lists really quick. Pithing Needle Mystical, nothing. This one's really not updated at all for any new cards. And with Historic, you're generally not going to see a huge impact unless it creates a brand new deck. This one's got Niv-Mizzet in the sideboard, Saheeli, so a lot of kind of one-ofs, fun-ofs in this deck here. We see Golgari Food. Looking to see if any new cards. Again, you're just getting the like channel lands, which you'll see a lot of. Command the Dreadhorde. It's a spicy one. Graph Reaver to kill Planeswalkers. So some cool cards inclusions in there. Azorius Control. This is not a Strict Proctor version, but we're seeing the Wandering Emperor. We're seeing March of the Otherworldly, the White Exile effect. So it's kind of just a more tried and true flash-based Divine Purge, seeing some copies in there. Ijanjo, Baneslayer on the sideboard for kind of life gain. See the Auras deck. Are they playing Light Pause? No Light Pause, but they're on Storm Chaser Drake. Light Pause is seeing in the Pioneer versions is seeing play. The new kind of equivalent to Core Spirit Dancer in a way, kind of tutors you another aura and attaches it. So we can go through the list like yourselves to see like if you're interested in playing these decks. These are multiple rounds of tournament, best of 3. Some good players like Holy Diva, another streamer, played this. For looking like Jun Food, 5 and 2. We're seeing the Jun Food versions play Omnicall to Anvil, Karn the Great Creator. Again, this is kind of akin to the Pioneer version that is moving to this package. You have like Platinum Angel and kind of a tutorable sideboard wishboard, which is kind of cool. Rakdos Arcanist. There's a couple versions. We're seeing like City Stalker Connoisseur in here, Rahilda, some cool cards in here. Dampening Sphere, Hirusugu Consumes All. So we're seeing some cards come into the format overall. This list looked pretty sweet. Zaboros kind of aggro, artifact equipment deck, which was kind of sweet. Went 5-2, the One James, the content creator, with the Mardu Vehicles combo. So there's a lot of different ways to build these decks. This one's on Esper Sentinels, has kind of card advantage. See another Mardu Vehicles. This one's a mix. You see the Blazing Root Wallas, the Thrilling Discoveries, Inquisitions, Thoughtseize. So there's like different takes of the deck. Is one more correct than the other? I don't know just yet, but we're seeing that. Like interesting to see Goldspan Dragon in the sideboard of these. Kind of a post board, but you can take a look. There's a lot of decks here for you to take a look at. What's Rakdos Control? Waste Not deck, kind of cool. But you can kind of take a look here, see what you think. If there's any decks that jump out to you, you could easily import them to Arena. You can see the win rates, how they performed, everything like that. So yeah, that wraps it up for the week. We'll hopefully have some more untapped data to do actual win percentages from the Arena side of things for next week. Probably won't get to an Alchemy one this week. There's just, without the new set, like the new kind of import of the cards, it just hasn't been as popular. So kind of taking a step away from that for at least a week. And if you want standard, like I said, it's on the channel. As always, if you do enjoy this content, greatly appreciate it if you could drop a like, comment, and if you haven't done so, consider subscribing to the channel. In addition to these meta videos, we put out a bunch of gameplay content as well for a variety of Arena formats, and we really test out the decks, do some brewing, test out these kind of new innovative decks, see what works, what doesn't, and somehow make Mythic each month by playing a different deck every video and learning along the way. Anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great one and stay safe out there.